Our next topic is racism within education. For 40 years, the educational system leading to and through medical school has failed to increase the number of Black, Latinx, Native American, and Pacific Islander students. Something is deeply wrong with this picture. The percentage of Black and Brown students in advanced programs at every level is lower than their presence in the general population. This imbalance exists from the very beginning, with lower enrollment into gifted and talented programs in elementary school, in 8th grade algebra, and in high school AP courses. Black and Native American students are singled out for suspensions and expulsions, with Black students representing 16% of students, but 42% of multiple out-of-school suspensions. This carries on with students referred to law enforcement and arrested in school. And all while Black students are impacted, schools particularly target Black boys. Excuse me, and while all Black students are impacted, schools particularly target Black boys. The unavoidable conclusion, according to the editors of the book, The Guide for White Women Who Teach Black Boys, is that our schools are designed to serve white students and designed to fail Black students. And how they do so is highly complicated. For the purpose of today's discussion, we will focus on factors at the level of the individual teacher. We're going to explore interpersonal racism through the lens of educational interpersonal racism from white women who teach Black boys. The hallmark of the relationship between white women and Black men is fear. As the editors write, white fear is killing Black men in this country. And it is this same fear that's failing Black boys in the classroom. Do we really mean fear? We are talking about well-meaning individuals dedicated to working with Black children. Let's hear how one former teacher, now a consultant with Cultures Connecting based in Seattle, answers this question.
When I was teaching, I saw a lot of things about myself and stereotypes that I had that I would have rather remained oblivious to. And in particular, the racism that I had internalized in regards to Black boys and Black men. It was always the students that I had the hardest time connecting with relationally. And so when she told me about what she wanted for her son, there was a part of that that humanized him in a way that was different from, again, to be totally honest, I believe that I had really, had a dehumanizing way that I was approaching these young people. And that's hard to say, it's hard to admit, but hearing her story and connecting with his mother humanized him and his story and his goals and what his family wanted for him, and also helped me to see in a different light who I was in relationship to him and what I could do as a teacher. There's another story that I think about I feel like all of my stories about working with Black boys are hard to talk about, they're hard to say. Because again, this was a time where I was really, for some of the first time in my life, confronting some of my own unconscious bias and having it really come to the surface. And one of the things that this kid's mom said to me too was that she felt like teachers were afraid of her son. And here he is, and he's still just in 5th grade. So he's mostly being seen as a boy still. He's not being seen as a man. And I wondered how many times did I take a step back when he walked towards me because of the fear that I had internalized, even about somebody so young at that point. And I really had to check myself around that and wonder about it, be conscious about it.
As stated by two contributing authors of this volume, Cole and Warren, quote, historically, white women are not the architects of white supremacy, but they are propagators of white supremacist logic, unquote. White women dominate the teaching profession, White girls are 25% of students, while white women comprise 62% of US teachers. The authors explain how the principle of universal design helps to illustrate the reason designing for small subpopulations improves our awareness of multiple factors. We can use the same approach to examining individual racialization education. When we think of the case of Black boys, those most failed by our educational system, we understand how our deepest racist ideas have a devastating impact. In this principle, what we tend to do is design for the middle and think about them and forget about the margins. But this tends to perpetuate inequities and limit our progress. Designing for the margins is seen by curb cuts. Started after World War II for soldiers in wheelchairs, curb cuts became useful for multiple other people, like strollers, people with fall risks, and bicycles. While talking about interpersonal and internalized racism impacting Black boys' education, there are important topics we have no time to discuss. For one, we won't have time for the psychological impact of interpersonal and internalized racism that denigrates Black female beauty, a topic that touched me deeply when I watched my older sister struggle with not being seen as beautiful in our white suburban culture. I invite you to explore our collective ingrained white superiority as it applies to standards of female beauty in the 2011 documentary, Dark Girls.